Hey Griddle Nation, it's Blackstone Betty. What an incredible year we've shared together. I've put out so many recipes for you guys to take and make at home for your friends and family. I love nothing more than watching you guys take these recipes and really enjoy eating them at home. As a huge thank you for all of you who watch my videos, comment on them, like them, share them, and just interact with me daily, I want to give away a 36-inch Blackstone to one of you guys. So in this video, we're going to go take a look back at my favorite recipes from this year that I know you guys have enjoyed. So be sure to stick around to the end of the video for your chance to win a Blackstone. I've got boneless, skinless chicken breast. I'm gonna cube this up into bite-sized pieces over the top with some of this extra virgin olive oil from Graze. It's a sizzle oil made for high heat, so if you don't have this, I like extra light tasting olive oil or avocado oil, or use whatever oil you prefer. We want this chicken full of flavor, so I'm adding fresh grated garlic, some garlic salt that has parsley in it. And if you're lucky enough to have Tutto Italiano still on hand, which was a limited time seasoning blend that I helped create, if you don't have that, use the Blackstone Tuscan herb. It's also so delicious. And we're adding some of the Blackstone Bayou blend. We'll add some Parmesan cheese. Go for a good quality cheese. To make this marinade creamy, we're going to add some Duke's mayo because Duke's, it's got that twang. Mix this all together. Now, if you want to let this marinate as is, cover it up, stick it in the refrigerator 20 minutes or up to overnight for even better flavor, or get these onto skewers now and let them sit in the refrigerator to marinate on the skewer sticks. While they hang out, we're gonna make a garlic butter. We're gonna smear this all over our chicken at the end of the cook. I've got some melted unsalted butter, some Parmesan cheese, flat leaf Italian parsley that we chopped up, a ton of grated fresh garlic, always fresh again. The flavor is superior over jarred garlic. We've got more of our garlic salt with the parsley in it, and for a little pinch or kick of heat, I've got some crushed red pepper flakes. All of this gets mixed together with a little bit of our Italian seasoning. To freshen this up, we're going to grate in the zest of a lemon and add just a little squeeze of that lemon juice. We'll get our Blackstone turned on. I love my griddle mat. This saves me from having to clean my side shelves. Such an easy, quick cleanup. We'll need some tongs and a brush for our garlic butter. Our chicken is ready to go. I always allow any of my meat to sit at room temperature inside the house. If it's coming out of the refrigerator for 20 minutes, allowing it to reach room temperature is going to help you have an even cook on your meat. Our griddle is set to medium-low heat, ready to go. A thin layer of oil, which keeps my seasoning nice and even each and every time I cook. Then we'll add all of these chicken skewers across our griddle, letting these go for about 2 to 3 minutes on all 4 sides. The chicken will release from the griddle just like a pan once it's got some nice color on each side, making these easy to flip. As soon as I flip these on to the last side, we'll brush on some of that garlic, cheesy butter all over these, allowing them to finish cooking for another 2 to 3 minutes. Before we pull these off, I love serving these family style on one of my many of big cutting boards that I collect, topping these off with extra Parmesan cheese. This recipe couldn't go any quicker. It's so simple and so fast, but one of the tastiest things ever. I love that you could serve these as a full dinner with your favorite side dishes or a salad, or as a party appetizer or party finger food. For a large crowd, it's inexpensive. I could probably eat these every single day for lunch and dinner. They're so juicy, fall off the stick good. I know you guys are gonna love these, so be sure to make them. We start with 1 pound of ground chicken into a large mixing bowl. We add half a cup of panko breadcrumbs. I'm gonna grate in 2 fresh garlic cloves. Fresh is key for me. We add a handful or about a quarter to a half a cup of some shredded mozzarella cheese. The same goes for locatelli pecorino romano cheese. This is my favorite cheese and I'm so happy I found it while down here in Florida. We'll add 1 large egg, and then we're gonna chop up a handful of flat leaf Italian parsley. Season this up with some salt, some pepper, nice and lightly, because we're adding to this a hefty dusting of our Tuscan herb from Blackstone. This seasoning is one of my favorites and a go-to for anything Italian. Now it's time to mix this up. You can do this by hand if you have some gloves, which CJ did not have on hand for me. So we're using a little spatula. Mix this up, and now we're gonna get our Blackstone pizza oven preheated. This way it's ready to rock and roll once these are rolled out. Before we roll these out, let's grab our Blackstone deep dish cast iron pan. We're gonna add a little drizzle or a hefty drizzle of some olive oil to this, and I'm gonna use my hands just to rub this around nice and evenly. And while my hand is nice and greasy, I'm gonna oil up our ice cream scooper, which is gonna get me some nice and even sized meatballs. You're gonna get about 12 meatballs for 1 pound of ground chicken, and these are pretty nice size. We'll add these to our cast iron pan, and once they're ready to go, we're gonna slide these into our hot pizza oven. Let them roll. After 5 minutes, they look nice and toasty on the top. You can see that cheese starting to bubble. We're gonna pull these out, and to our pan, we're gonna add in a 16-ounce jar of marinara or marinade. And
gravy.
Either one, but Michael's of Brooklyn is one of my favorites, especially if you're not using a homemade one. Pour that all over your meatballs. Now, because I like things extra cheesy, we're gonna add a handful or 2 more of our shredded mozzarella and our locatelli, popping this back into the pizza oven to finish for another 5 minutes. Using the help of CJ's muscles, have him pull this out once it's done. It is bubbly hot. Before diving into this, I have to go for more of our pecorino romano cheese, some basil, and then of course a post dust of our Tuscan herb all over the top. This one is so good, and you could enjoy this as is. Scoop it up or slop it up with some good crusty bread. Pour over pasta.
Oh, pasta would be money.
If you didn't want to add the sauce now, you could.
Oh, you could do a dipper.
Yep, you can make it like an appetizer. But this is probably my favorite
Betty,
way.
this, when I said, hey, can you please show me chicken parm?
Look at the cheese. Look at the cheese.
I'm looking, I'm observing the crust on this. Oh, yeah, so much.
You gotta get, if
like,
you don't have bread,
there.
you gotta get it all up. Oh gosh.
Because all that cheese.
Yes, look at that.
Oh, the cheese. All right.
Oh my gosh, this
going.
is embarrassing. I'm gonna put a whole big. Right?
That's easily the best meatball I have ever had in my life. I'm not even kidding you. The best meatball I have ever had in my life. The best meatball I have ever had in my life. No joke. I get it that it's a chicken parm, but I'll take that over a traditional meatball any day of the week.
You can't really tell that it's chicken.
I can. It's better than a regular meatball. Those are amazing. Can I steal this?
You can have half of them.
Well, I mean, like, can I tell all my friends in the neighborhood?
Yes, you guys have
that
to
I
make
did this and I came up with it?
Well, you'll make them again, right?
Oh, I'm making them
and
this
Griddle
weekend.
Nation needs to make them at home, and we want to see.
You guys got to show.
These, yes. I feel like I kind of want to do like a giveaway.
A giveaway of your meatballs?
No, I want to do a giveaway. Like if somebody makes these and they look really, really, really good. Maybe
maybe they get like a new cast iron.
Yeah, cast iron and maybe
some Tuscan herb.
Yeah, so make these and post them and make a little video and show us that you guys enjoyed them just as much as me and CJ.
No, you didn't enjoy them as much as I am.
Oh my gosh,
because
we've got to go.
This is incredible. Yeah, that.
Heaven.
All of that.
This seriously is what tastes like Sunday at my house. It's perfect, and I'm sure that Andy wants some too right now, about now. The cheesesteak was created by hot dog vendor Pat Oliveri in South Philly in the 1930s. Simply beef, onions, and melty cheese on a good Italian roll is all you need. However, you can add whatever else you'd like to add to your steak sandwich. A large or small dice both work here. Onions add a ton of flavor to our steak sandwich, so the size of your cut depends on what kind of bite you want. I'm always switching it up. Now, Cooper Sharp American cheese from the deli is the best around. It melts better than anything else, regardless of whether you cut it small like this for easy distribution and a quick melt, or leave it in slices to melt over top of your meat, or like an older video that I showed you how I make a cheese sauce using Cooper Sharp cheese is another fun way to get your cheesesteaks nice and cheesy fast. In that same video, I showed you how to shave, chip, or slice ribeyes at home paper thin. Today, I picked up shaved ribeye ready to go. Paper thin is key. You can always ask your butcher to chip or shave steaks. Sirloin would be a more cost-efficient choice, and it's used in a lot of steak shops as well. Now, this is a quickie. Into some neutral oil our onions go until tender and translucent. Not too fast, so I'm gonna cut my 2 middle burners off. One, because I'm filming myself, so I do need to give myself a little time to juggle the camera, but I also don't want them to get crispy. We want them soft, but to still have a little bit of a bite. We season with salt and pepper, then slide these aside, keeping behind as much of that oil that the onions cooked in right in the center. If you don't have room on your griddle, just remove these, place them in a bowl, but you want that oil on your griddle to cook your steak in. Now my first burner is off, so my onions will stay there. My middle two are back on to medium-high heat. Down into that flavored oil goes our shaved steak. Now using 2 scrapers or spatulas, we start ripping and pulling apart our steak as it's cooking, picking up all of that onion flavor. The small pieces are gonna make for an easy bite when eating your sandwich. Once it's just about cooked completely, about 90% of the way done at least, we then season with salt and pepper, keeping it nice and simple, just the way a cheesesteak should be. The Blackstone cheesesteak seasoning is a fantastic addition. If you have some, dust that over as well. It's delicious. And now to our Cooper Sharp cheese all over the top. If you don't have this, Land O'Lake Deli Sliced American cheese or Boar's Head American cheese, which I also love, especially if I'm not near home, I'm at a state or on vacation and want to make steak sandwiches, either of those would be my next pick. Now we want our cheese melted throughout all of our meat, so give that a toss, allow it to melt throughout. Now I'm doing all 3 of my sandwiches with onions, so toss our onions through all of our meat, then separate into 3 different piles, lining them up. This way our rolls, which is to me the most important part of a good cheesesteak, you want a good Italian roll, not a bun. Liscios is a favorite choice. You need something hard and chewy and strong on the outside to hold everything in. The inside should be soft and spongy almost, to soak up all of the juices without falling apart like a hot dog bun would. Now these lay over the piles of meat, allowing the edges to just kiss the griddle slightly to soak in some of that flavor for a hot minute, then using one hand to hold the roll while sliding a spatula under all of that cheesy steak, we flip these over and look at the top layer, how the cheese and the steak caramelize on that first layer that was kissing the griddle. Everything underneath is just cheesy perfection. Now, when I worked in South Philly, friends had me hooked on adding a smear of mayo and ketchup to mine. My mom always served Jewish deli pickles out of the barrel with hers. Most popular would be pickled hot or sweet jarred peppers, which are the perfect addition. It's meant to cut the richness of the sandwich, so a bite of your rich cheesy steak sandwich, a bite of a pickled sweet or spicy pepper. And then there's those, not me or probably anybody from this area, that do like bell peppers on theirs. Whether it's traditional or a pizza steak or a cheesesteak hoagie, the possibilities of things to add to your cheesesteak are endless once you know how to make one. I've got 80/20 ground beef, some sliced up white sweet onions, and of course, Martin's potato rolls. And as much as I love a good quality cheese, especially my Cooper Sharp cheese, when it comes to a smash burger, good old Kraft Deluxe, not the single wrap slices, is a must for these. So we'll start off on our Blackstone on low heat and drop down a little bit of avocado oil. You can use any neutral oil that you like, and then drop down our onions. I want these to cook on low, adding just a little bit of butter for flavor and to just get my griddle surface nice and buttery when it comes to smashing our burgers. Using tongs or spatula, get those onions all mixed within that oil and that butter. Let them just hang out, do their thing for a couple minutes. Now, I don't like my onions too softened when it comes to my burgers. I like a little bit of crunch still, so I don't want to let these go for too long. When it comes to my smash burgers, I like to season them with a mixture of salt, pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. For every 1 teaspoon of each salt and black pepper, I add half a teaspoon of garlic powder and onion powder. We'll use this blend to season up our onions, allowing them to go just for another minute or so, and then I'm going to add a pinch of some brown sugar along with some Worcestershire sauce. Give that a toss, let them cook for just another minute or so, and then I'm going to pull these off. Now, if you want yours, again, nice and tender and really caramelized, just let them go longer on low heat. For our ground beef, we're going to separate this pound into 3 big fat burgers. Gently using our hands to just roll these into balls without really smushing together that ground beef, keeping it very loosely packed. Now I'm turning up my 2 right burners to high heat and we'll drop down our burger patty. This we want to cook on high heat. Using a piece of parchment paper and our burger smasher, we're going to give this a smash down, kind of smearing it around in a circle to really seal those edges, holding down for 10 seconds. This is going to create the most beautiful crust. This way, as our burger cooks, all of its juices start to cook upwards, keeping our patty nice and juicy instead of our juices cooking out of our burger. But I know a lot of people who have never made them believe that they're going to be dry by smashing them, but this is exactly why they are not. Now you can see the edges of this burger starting to change color. You can see a little bit of that crust that's formed underneath, and again, along with all those juices rising to the top of our burger. Once you see a good amount of color, you want to flip these, but first we've got to season them up with our salt, pepper, garlic, onion powder blend. Then using a scraper or a spatula, you want to slide under this burger completely so that you are peeling all of that crust up off of your griddle surface. Giving it a flip, you can see just how gorgeous of a crust that you have just created. Now we want to immediately top this off with a slice of our Kraft Deluxe cheese, along with a pile of those beautiful onions that we cooked down. We've got to move fast, so over to our potato rolls. We've got to do a super thin smear of our Duke's mayo, Duke's only because it's got that twang, and then mayo side down, they go on to the griddle to toast. Make sure that you are doing this on the left side of your griddle, otherwise your buns will toast too fast. And since this is a grilled cheese, we are going to top each of these halves with another slice of cheese, placing our burger on top of one half and then sandwiching this together and allowing it to flip back and forth until it's toasty on the outside to your liking, which my first burger is going straight to me and I like it extra toasty. And then I'm just going to repeat the process because at this point my family has been smelling what I'm cooking outside, so I'm going to make one without onions, of course, for Kira, and then we'll make a third with our onions. I love the way that this looks on the Blackstone griddle as it's cooking. Those onions heat up and add so much flavor to this. The cheese is the perfect melty cheese, as terrible as this cheese probably is for you, but the crust created on these smash burgers are so good, and I love the extra cheesiness of this way of making a Five Guys grilled cheese cheeseburger. And of course, whether in or alongside, I've gotta have some good pickles with any good burger, but it wouldn't be complete or mine if I didn't top it off with burger sauce. This is a must for me. It goes on all of my burgers, and so many more griddled goodies off of the Blackstone. Try it on a griddled chicken sandwich. You'll just love it. Or dip your fries in it. It's so delicious. And again, you can find the full recipe for this up on the Blackstone products website. I know you guys in Griddle Nation are gonna love it just as much. The secret to extra crispy chicken wings starts off with fresh, never frozen wings, or at least if you're buying frozen. Secret number 2 is allowing these to dry out in the refrigerator overnight with baking powder and salt. Using paper towels to initially dry the wings off with paper towels, then add some salt and baking powder, tossing these to coat the chicken wings evenly. I've showed you before how I usually line these up on a cooling rack that's on top of a baking tray. Stick that in the refrigerator in one even layer. However, you can also be lazy like I am often, which means just tossing them in a container or a tray like I'm using and leaving them overnight, as long as they're uncovered in the refrigerator so that they can dry out some. Now, the next day when I'm ready to get my chicken wings cooking, I allow them to sit in the kitchen to come to room temperature for about 20 to 30 minutes before I bring them outside, which gives me time to make one of my famous barbecue sauces. I used to sell it in jars. It is so delicious. I love this barbecue sauce in a gyro or a gyro on top of pizza, cubing up chicken and griddling it, then bringing it to parties with a big vat of this barbecue sauce is one of my most requested popular recipes that my family asked me to bring to parties. It's always one of the first to go. Now it's so simple to make. Into a large mixing bowl we add mayo, some white wine vinegar, fresh squeezed lemon juice, a little bit of sugar, some salt, and super heavy on the black pepper. Trust me, it's so good. Most importantly, use fresh grated garlic. Don't skip on the fresh garlic. I know I say it all the time, but right here in this one, it is a must. Fresh garlic has a sharper, stronger flavor than jarred, which really is needed for this tangy barbecue sauce. We'll mix this together. This can go in the refrigerator until we're ready to eat. These today are going to be naked, but I do like serving these ones up with fried onions, so I have one large sweet Vidalia onion. We sliced this up right before I'm ready to cook my chicken wings, which again, I let come to room temperature. We drizzle over some neutral oil to coat these nice and thin and evenly. I'm using avocado oil. I've got my griddle mat on my shelf with some spatulas. We'll get our griddle turned on, starting on high heat, which gives me a chance to get this griddle cleaned up. I like to go over it a couple of times with water to steam clean anything that my lazy self might have left behind from my last cook. We'll slide our griddle gate over. This way we don't lose any of our onions or wings in our rear grease drain hole. A little thin layer of avocado oil goes down across the griddle and we'll add those onions. Toss these onions in that oil. Now my griddle at this point is on low heat. We want everything to cook nice and slowly. Once we've got our onions tossed in the oil, we'll slide them to the front of our griddle. Let them cook nice and low and slow, adding our chicken to our griddle. We want this on low heat because we want the chicken, which will start skin side down, to slowly render out its fat. This is going to create that super crispy golden brown color that we all love on a chicken wing. Now between letting them go low and slow to render out their fat, the baking powder trick, allowing them to dry out overnight in the refrigerator, you'll see all of this together creates the most crispy chicken wing on a griddle. It's starting to get that deep golden brown, nice crispy skin. We'll flip these over, drizzle or spray oil as needed throughout this cook. Just make sure you're not rushing the chicken wings, allowing them to cook low and slow. We'll season up our onions with a little bit of salt and pepper, keeping this chicken moving and adding oil as needed. Using some tongs, we'll position the chicken up on each side. This way, the tips and the points and every single inch of this chicken gets a nice chance to shallow fry in the oil. My onions are looking good, so we're going to remove them for the time being, allowing our chicken to continue frying, which it is cooked at this point, cooked nice and through. However, we're gonna bump our heat up to medium or medium-high heat just for the last few minutes. This is going to get me that extra crispy chicken wing that I like. You can let them go for as long as you like until they achieve the perfect deep color that you're looking for personally. We'll season them up with granulated garlic, some onion powder, a little pinch of salt since we had already added it to our chicken when it sat overnight, some black pepper, add oil if you need for that last couple of minutes as well. I add my fried onions to toss throughout these, which adds even more flavor to these chicken wings, but personally, I just love fried onions and I always think it pairs perfect with this chicken. When it comes time to plate these up, you know me, I always go for a nice cutting board. This one was sent to me from Griddle owner Renelle Shea in Utah. One of the sweetest, most thoughtful gifts ever sent to me. She made it herself. It's one of my favorite family style cutting boards. We have carrots, celery, and of course our white barbecue sauce for dipping these wings into. Let's close up the back of our Blackstone rear grease drain hole just so that nothing goes missing. First things first, using one of our rear grease drain liners, I'm gonna melt down a stick of butter with a little drizzle of olive oil in there, some fresh chopped garlic, and some flat leaf Italian parsley. While that melts down, we'll smear across a little of our sizzle oil just to get our Blackstone nice and coated, keeping our seasoning nice and even as we cook each and every single time. We'll drop down our potatoes and our corn since these will take the longest to cook. Now, for the life of me, I cannot find my extra large Blackstone dome, which I love using for this meal, so we'll have to go with one of the smaller one and split this up. With the help of a little water, we'll place our corn under one of these domes and allow it to help our corn steam and cook through. And being the determined person that I am gonna get these potatoes and corn, no matter what it takes, all under one small dome, adding some water just to help these potatoes cook through as well. While they do their thing under there, I'm gonna drop down my Italian sausage into just a little drizzle of oil, slicing them into bite-sized pieces, which I love that you can cut right directly on your griddle surface. Just don't go too hard because you don't want to cut into your seasoning and mess that up. While that sausage cooks, we'll jump back over to our potatoes and our corn, giving them a little shake under that dome, helping that steam move around and cook everything through. You can use a sharp knife or a toothpick to check for tenderness on your potatoes, which we are just about there. So jumping back over to my sausage, I'm gonna drop down just some large quartered chopped sweet onion. Let that go for just a minute, and now I'm going to remove this dome and toss everything together with my potatoes, which are about 95% cooked. My corn doesn't take long at all. It's getting nice and toasty on the outside, but everything needs some flavor, and our butter is melted now, so over the top we drizzle a little at a time as this cooks, adding some Old Bay as well, and you'll see that as this cooks we're gonna add more butter and more Old Bay in layers. Now my potatoes are done completely. Everything here is cooked through, so I'm gonna slide this aside and drop down our snow crab legs. Now these are already cooked through. All they need to do is thaw out because they do come frozen. You can add a little drizzle of water to create more steam to help them thaw even faster. In the meantime, we'll drop down some smashed garlic cloves, making sure all of our potatoes are cooked through, and then after a minute or so we can slide them over, adding them to the rest of the party on the griddle along with our jumbo wild caught shrimp. Now these shrimp do have their shells on. They are butterflied though for easy peeling. The shells add even more flavor, and they also help trap in some of our Old Bay, our melted garlicky butter, and the beer that we're about to add to this, because every seafood pot needs to be cooked with beer. It adds so much flavor, so over the top goes a beer. Let that beer steam, and all of the natural juices from all of our seafood and our sausage, it creates just this beautiful sauce that's very light across all of this seafood. Give it just a few more tosses and a few more minutes, and this is done. Before pulling it off, I always finish dish with a squeeze of fresh lemon juice all across this, making that sauce even more delicious. And like any seafood lover, I go super heavy on the Old Bay. While we let this finish steaming on our Blackstone griddle, we're gonna jump over and use our air fryer to make some garlicky bread, which I think is a must for any seafood dish. I can see that our shrimp are cooked to perfection, so we're gonna pull this off, plate it up on one gigantic family style sized platter, pull out our perfectly toasted garlic bread from our air fryer, slice that up and top off our platter. Now this truly is a thing of beauty. This is absolutely everything me and my family love. Sitting around the table and just picking at crabs and seafood, getting butter all over our hands. The best part is that you can add any extra seafood you like to it. Sometimes we add clams, mussels, scallops, king crab legs when we're feeling bougie, some lobster tails, really anything you want to add to it, or switch out the protein. If you don't want a pine sausage, add your kielbasa or smoked sausage, or go for both. There's no rules to this one. You guys are gonna love this seafood on the griddle, I promise. Now, if you've made any of these recipes at home, or maybe it's another recipe of mine that I've shared over the year that is now one of your staples at home that you make for your friends and family, I'd love to hear from you down below. Maybe send me a picture. This is your chance to win a 36-inch Blackstone as a thank you from me. I love being able to share all of my family style favorites with you guys, and I cannot wait for another year full of lots of food and lots more griddle owners. Until next time, I'm Blackstone Betty, and I will see you in my next family style video.